Okay, this video is going to deal with the opinion-based ratings. So that's going to be quickness, skating, puck control, and checking. So on these, we don't have any statistics that correlate to those ratings. So I have a little cheat sheet here, kind of where your thinking should be when you're assigning these stats. Let me bring the Predators over here. So the Predators are the team that I'll be working on here because it's just the easiest one for me to do since I watch all of their games. That really helps a lot on these. So quickness is like the main statistic. That's the primary rating that you should be looking at. It's really the mental quickness, how fast guys make decisions in the simulator. And so that's the easiest way to control how good a player is overall, and how we can ensure that like first line players are scoring at higher rates than fourth line and AHL guys. And so rather than really assigning it based on a skill set, we're going to say first line players are going to have an 8 for quickness. Second line players are going to have a 7. 6 is going to be for a third line player, and so on down the list. And then of course there's like players who are well above that level even, who will be a 9. And those are like guys like McDavid, who you can put him on any team in the league and he's going to be their number one center. Kucherov, he's going to be the number one winger on any team in the league. So if you think about it, if you take a guy off of the team he's on and put it on every team in the league, if he's going to be the number one guy on most teams, then he's probably a 9. He's pretty elite, a little bit better than just your average first liner. Skating, again, it really helps a team like the Predators. I watch them night in, night out. There's 1 or 2 games of theirs I might miss a year. So I can really quickly, I could go down and populate this list based on, here 6 is the average NHL player skill, 7 is above average, 8 is well above average, and so on. If you're not familiar with the guys that you're rating on a team, there's, I like on Forecaster, again, there's a little scouting report. Sometimes that can give you some clues. They're not always up to date, but you can get an idea from that. You can look up news articles, especially like year-end reports for teams where they grade out each player. Those can help. I go on HF boards all the time. There's a lot of crazy people that post on here with some wild ideas, but you can sort of filter that out and find the posters who are really insightful and have solid information on the players, just to get an idea of where they would fit into that rating scale. Checking, that's our defensive stat. So skating and checking, you do want to try to get, it's not like quickness where we're trying to accomplish something specific with that. These are where we really are trying to match up their skills. How good of a skater are they? How good are they defensively? And then puck control is going to be a little more of an equalizer skill also, where I'm looking at things like quickness. Mostly their passing and shooting and checking, to determine where their puck control should be, just to ensure that guys who should be performing well actually do perform well in the simulator, and guys who are maybe lower rung players aren't having those statistic anomalies in the simulator that they shouldn't really be having. So I'm going to go through a few of these players real quick. Ryan Johansson, first line center. He's not elite by any stretch. He's borderline second line center, but he's still a first line center. He's still a 60-point guy. He's not the guy you want leading the charge, but he is a first liner. Skating, he's not, he's above average. He's not bad. He's not particularly good. The number one consideration for skating is going to be speed. And then, edge work is kind of secondary. So really speed is your primary focus on skating. Checking, Ryan Johansson's a good defensive center. He's not, elite. He's not going to be in the Selke conversation, but he's good. So I'm going to give him a 7 there. 7's above average. And then, so now I'm going to come into his puck control. First, I'm going to look at passing and shooting. So he should be somewhere, he hit 5, 6. So I'd definitely say he's at least going to be 6. And then I'm going to look at his checking. He's a 7. You can't be good defensively without having decent puck control. And he's got an 8 for quickness. So he's all over the board. 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to go ahead and give him a 7 for puck control. And again, you can go back and look at previous seasons. Last year, again, I had him rated 8, 7, 7 there. His passing and shooting came down, though. 7 and 6, down to 6 and 5 this season. So I think it only makes sense that his puck control comes down from 8 to 7 with that. Mikhail Granlund, he's a second-line player. We'll give him a 7 for quickness. I'll go ahead and give him a 7 for skating also and defense. He's a really good defensive guy. He kills penalties. He's quick. So shooting 6, passing 6. So we're looking where we know we're at least going to give him a 6 for puck control. Checking and quickness is 7 and 7. So I'm going to go ahead and give him a 7. It's just a little bit. It's probably usually going to end up being a little bit more than what their passing and shooting is. And then I'll verify versus last year. I gave an 8 last year. 7, 6, 6, 6. So I think a 7 is fair. It was honestly, that's probably a little bit too high last year that I gave him that. Let's go down here to some other guys. Colton Sissons, 4th liner. So he's going to get a 5 for quickness. 7. He's your average NHL skater. Good defensively. 7. He doesn't put up a lot of points shooting, passing, 5 and 5. But he is good defensively. So I'm going to give him. He's got a bunch of 5s and he's got a 7 on checking. So I'm going to give him a 6 for puck control. It's very, very subjective, but as long as you're, hitting like right above the passing and shooting mark and kind of in line with the quickness and checking, you can't really go wrong there. Let's see, we'll do a couple more forwards here. Philip Forsberg, he's an 8 for quickness. He's definitely a first liner, but he's not elite. He's just not consistent enough. He's got the tools, but he's not a point per game guy. There are probably several wingers in the league that would be ahead of him on the depth chart if he went to other teams. So we'll give him a 7 for skating, and let's give him a 6 for defense. So he's got 7 and 8. So we're probably going to be closer to that 8 on passing, or the 8 that he has for passing. We're probably going to be around there for puck control. And I'll verify that by saying he's got an 8 in quickness. So let's go ahead and give him an 8 for puck control. And then I'll double check that versus last year. 8 quickness, 7 skating, 8 puck control, 6 checking. So really tops out the same as last year. And, he's 27 years old. He's not changing much from season to season at this point. He's right in his prime. So it makes sense that his stats didn't really change. So here's a guy like Cole Smith. Cole Smith is an AHL player. He got a cup of coffee just as a thank you for signing out of college. But he's not going to be in the NHL again. So guys like this, he might be a little bit better defensively. It's still not even NHL average. It's below average. Not a great skater. And then he's got 4, 4, 4, 4. So I have no problem giving him a 4 for puck control. And, 26 years old, he's probably going to get drafted into the WHL in the 6th round this year. and not play in the NHL and just retire right away out of the WHL. So, it's not a big deal giving him those numbers. There's like 5 forwards. Let's move on to the defenseman. Roman Josi, he's a guy that I would give a 9 to. He's an elite defender. He won the Norris a couple of years ago. Carries a huge workload. He's not bad defensively. I'm going to give him a 7 for checking here, his defensive statistic. A lot of highly offensive defenders are not that great in their own end, but Josi can keep up. He's not going to shut anyone down, but he's going to keep up there. And then so he's got 9 for shooting, 9 for passing, 9 for quickness. We can give him a 9 for puck control. Matthias Ekholm. Now here's another thing you have to look out for. Matthias Ekholm skates on the second pair in Nashville, but I'm not going to give him a 7 as a second pair defenseman. I'm going to give him an 8 for quickness and say that he's a first line defenseman, because most other teams he would be a first pair, but here in Nashville he's behind Josi for that lefty. But he's really a first pair talent, and he's really good defensively. We'll give him an 8 there, and doesn't do a ton with the puck, even though he's got that 8 passing, 8 defense. I mean, I could realistically give him a 7 for puck control. He's probably not the primary guy carrying the puck up the ice on his pair. I think we're good with that. So let's move on to, let me find some other interesting names here. David Ference. So this guy's a prospect. And on our prospect list, I try to keep them. So 6 is like high-end prospects. So those are like the first-round picks. Guys that they're going to break through at some point and be on the roster. They're probably going to have an impact in the NHL somewhere. 5 is your average prospect. These are guys that are probably also going to be in the NHL but not really be remarkable. And then 4 is the low-end prospect, so these are like long-shot players. So David Ference, he should be an NHL player one day, but I don't think he's going to be like a top-caliber guy. I'm going to give him a 5. He's a pretty quick skater. He can keep up with NHL guys, so we're going to give him a 6 there. Defensively, not good. He's all offensive at the moment, so he needs to work on that before he can become a permanent NHL defenseman. So he's got a 6 shooting, 6 passing, 5 for quickness, 4 here. Let's give him a 5 on puck control. So that's right, he's got 4s, 5s, and 6s. So let's split the difference and give him a 5 there. Jeremy Davies is probably right around the same thing. He's kind of running out of time here to make it to the NHL. Again, a good skater, not good defensively. Again, he's got 4s and 5s in those categories, so let's give him a 5 for puck control. And then let's do one more. Eric Goodbranson. He's a third pair defenseman. Give him a 6. He's okay skating, fine, good defensively, so let's give him a 7 there. And now he doesn't produce much, 4 and 4 in passing and shooting, but with that defense there, that checking, it's kind of useless to give him that rating and not have him be able to handle the puck at all. So we'll give him a 6 for puck control, call it average there. It's not going to make him, significantly better in the simulator because he still has 4s in those categories. So, but that puck control will aid his defense, as he's known as a good defensive defenseman.